What's up, WWE Champions Universe? Welcome to Champions Chat, the fastest growing podcast dedicated to the WWE Champions mobile game. I'm Piper Nevin, Rusty Graves, and with me as always, Chelsea Green, Lee Brown.
How dare
What's up, Lee?
How dare you say that? I need to speak to your manager right now. Get him or her on the phone, preferably a her right now.
I don't think I've ever done a female tag team as our intro. And so, like, deservingly so, with the talent that's in pro wrestling right now, and with the caliber of performance that the ladies put on at the Royal Rumble, they certainly deserve all the accolades we can give them, especially the girl who stole the show, Chelsea Green. Wasn't that a phenomenal, just entertaining? I mean, whether you like her or not, she is entertaining.
I was very sports entertained by Chelsea Green in the Royal Rumble. That was a good through line.
Yeah. And like sometimes, I don't know, is this a wrestling term? I always call it getting ragdolled. Sometimes getting ragdolled is hilarious to see. And
right.
She certainly experienced the full brunt of the heaviest of heavyweights continuing to do their best moves on her. And I mean, like a pro, she just took those spots, ate those spots, and was so entertaining. So,
yep.
Ode to Chelsea.
Yep, I agree.
We're big fans. So, hey, today's show notes, as you're going to be listening in, we're going to be particularly talking about this retro rewind month-long contest and asking the question, is this the greatest month in free-to-play history? And then we're going to contrast this month's conversation with the high bar weekend, hard to acquire, maybe superstars, and also these midweek events. And yet somehow our MLC points seem to be way ahead of the pace, and Rhea seems within reach for most of the community. Then we're going to have a community spotlight with our friend Great JMan Gaming, and we're going to wrap up today's show with WWE TV conversation about our favorite couples in honor of yesterday being Valentine's Day. That's quite a lineup, Holly.
It is. I'm still waiting to talk to your manager, though.
Well, Retro Rewind is in full swing. I actually was able to say it without getting tongue twisted this time. And I don't know that I've ever noticed so much a polarizing conversation has emerged where people have a lot of thoughts and feelings on this month. Number one, the theme itself. Is it the coolest aesthetic, or is it a hokey way to get people into a category they don't belong in? You got any thoughts on that? Like, first of all, kind of the 80s, 90s aesthetic, the neons, the punk rock hairstyles, the leather jackets, the Michael Jackson motif. And for me, my childhood, so this is an homage to when I grew up. And yet the opposite side of the coin is, well, Kevin Owens isn't really a legend, and so so like we have this dichotomy at play. Any thoughts on that collision?
I mean, I think that I share in the sentiment of going, wait a second, these weren't legends. But once that wore off, it was like, okay, wait a sec, we have gaps in our legends area in particular. And I realize we've talked about this, but it really does come down to licensing. And we've been in a few conversations with some of the Scopely people in our role as content creators, where we've just been able to recognize, like, it is incredibly difficult to get licensing, and people don't understand that to the degree that it makes, like, oh, this is the issue right here, right? Like, it's not just dealing with the wrestlers' estates, it's dealing with WWE themselves getting permission, getting WWE to get permission from the estates, or, the person, if they're still living, and et cetera, like, to put new characters in the game it takes a Herculean effort, it seems. We just have the slightest bit of insight onto that. So to buff out this era, like we've been complaining for years, literally, about getting a female legend, and now we have Rhea Ripley, who, yeah, she's not a female legends era, but I don't think anybody's going to deny that 40 years from now, she is going to be seen as one of the female legends. So, I mean, it's a little bit of semantics as to what is the Legends era. Is it the 1980s? Is it the late 70s to early 90s? What is that?
Right.
But the reality is this buffs out a lot of things that we need. And not only do we get Rhea that you mentioned, and we'll talk about in a moment, is very accessible to a large swath of the community. But this weekend, so tonight, whoever does the blog, traditionally Professor, but we're not sure who,
Or Goldie.
this is a weekend, another female character. So we went from having only one that was terribly dated to Sherry, who is amazing, but nobody can get her because she's so
Right.
rare,
Out of
to now
reach. Yeah.
Rhea's accessible, and now we'll have another Legends female. So what it's doing for our rosters, I could care less about if they had to use a gimmick to get there, I guess.
Okay. That's a great point. And I think you represent a perspective in the community, certainly, that just wants to have a better roster. I think there's also a contingency in the community that wants to see the integrity of the legacy era, right? Whether we call it legends or whatever, right?
Right.
These are the guys we grew up with that are no longer active, right? And yet, gosh, as we've seen in nearly every, and we don't have to go too deep into this, but as we've seen in nearly every arena of life, people's legacies can be tarnished through their own actions or through stories coming out about behind the scenes. We now live in an age where everyone has a recording device in their pocket at all time that records audio and video and takes photos, and you can live tweet and quote. I mean, so it's like we live in the surveillance era. It is going to be really hard to get through the entirety of our life without having a gaffe, or more than a gaffe, something catastrophic that we've done that everyone knows about, right?
Yep.
And so that's part of this reality too, is like who gets to stay in the game versus who doesn't, who should be canceled, right, or erased from history, right, for their own words and actions. That's a tricky reality as well. And that's way beyond my pay grade. And it's not just a wrestling thing, it's an all of life thing, right? In every arena, we're seeing prominent people get exposed for their words and actions and behavior, etc.
And then throw on top of that licensing issues and just estate deals. And I mean, there's just so many, like, trying to get, and let's, we don't talk about it a lot, but there's still an ongoing concussion related lawsuit that lots of legends have going against WWE, and they're not going to use those superstars, even though some of them are the longest reigning tag team in previous to modern history, and some of those type things. So you've got a lot of factors that play into it. So utilizing, I mean, we said this, I specifically said we needed a Ghostbusters 2 event, not only because Ghostbusters 2 is a great movie, but I mean like a second Ghostbusters event where it was the ladies, like it was just all female legends. All the time. So frankly,
really
if
cool.
this month had been nothing but ladies and they were all Legends era, I would have been 100% fine with that. But the fact that we have two at least that we know about for sure, it's great. And you mentioned about Rhea being accessible. So I don't know where you're at with your MLC pace, but I maxed on Monday of this week, which was functionally the start of week 3. So barely past 2 weeks into the MLC. I'm now almost 100,000 past the mark. So I've been building Rhea. I aside from the fact that we just had back-to-back acro, got to take him to 6-star
That was
reworks.
brutal. That was brutal. The double
Whoopsie.
acro was brutal.
Yeah.
And if this
Right.
weekend,
So I can't take
if
Rhea
this
up right
weekend
now.
female is an acro, Lord Almighty.
No, there wouldn't be, because Rhea, I mean, Rhea is an acro. It's a legendary. I mean, it's got to be a tech or a powerhouse. I mean, we desperately need a powerhouse Legends era female. Well, of course, we do tech as well. And anyway, but either way, I think they're trying to round out so that we at least have one in each class. And so far, we
Yeah.
have Sherry. So we've got Striker, Showboat, and Acro. So you've got the other three classes that we can pull from.
Potentially powerhouse. I mean, I think it's been a little while since a powerhouse female has. I mean, Piper Nevin, is she the most
Zombie Live?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm at like 470 on the pace.
Okay, so you're gonna max this week, basically.
I hope so. I don't know, because today's Thursday, right? And there's no solo points in the weekend. So I don't think I'll max this week, right? I mean,
did you do the Cora Jade Liv Morgan?
I did.
No.
The one level with 20,000. That was a big injection, thankfully.
Never mind. Yeah, but still, you'll max next week. Which, if you max next week, you're still maxing 2 weeks functionally. We can have 2 weeks ahead of the event, and most of the time, like we've talked about, I've maxed most everyone since Zombie Lashley, give or take, and a lot of the times I was coming down to the wire, like last day even.
Yeah.
I'm no longer on that scale. I've been maxing them, the last week or even like a week ahead of the MLC. But this is there's only one other that I've maxed this early, and that was because of a mistake. That was Giovanni, right?
Yeah, the Vinci month. So, okay, that's a perfect segue into this. As a longtime player and longtime free-to-play player, I've been in Champions since the first few months of the game, right?
Right.
And I have felt the frustration of feeling like the MLC is not even something I can attempt. I have felt the frustration of seeing, people in my faction getting the latest and greatest while I am, kind of scraping up the whatever scraps are left over that I can. I now am a place where my hobbies have shifted. I was primarily a longtime free to play because of the amount of money that I put into another hobby called Magic the Gathering, right? I was a competitive Magic player, had a ton of money invested in cards, and I couldn't justify, as a husband and a father, asking my wife, can I have the second other expensive hobby and
Right.
So I'm not playing Magic anymore. I've sold off most of my cards. I've transferred those funds. I would love to say I've just dumped it all into the game. I haven't. I've had to buy things like a washer and dryer set. I've had to buy things like household items that we needed at the time. But also, that's just a long preface to say, I think I have credibility when I say this, and I want Lee, feel free to refute, challenge, argue. I don't want to upset the community, but my assessment is this might be, if not, it is the greatest. This is the greatest MLC that a free to play player has ever had. Based on what I've seen happen in the game, on what has been acquired, on the bird in the hand, right? Not the opportunity of the two in the bush that we're trying to chase this or that. But I would say this is probably, if not definitely, the greatest month in free to play history.
Yeah.
Is that too bold of a take?
Let me talk about that. No, I mean, I think there's maybe an argument for a 1A, 1B, but and two, addressing, like, you were a free to play player. I was just gonna say, people are gonna comment like, every other video is Rusty's pulls now, stuff like that.
Right.
Well, we're investing differently in our content now.
And in the I will say this, since I got a taste of my first maxing of the MLC. I've I've since started spending more on my account and on my polls and on my roster because of my goals have changed in the game. My roster strategy and my roster goals have changed. But in all transparency, my roster just when I this is iconic. When I got the Cody,
iconic.
I know, right? When I got Tech Cody as like the finally finishing the story, Tech Cody, he was at this MLC Talent Up event. He was the superstar that I brought up that pushed me over 5 million. So I broke the 5 million roster. Now, and I used to say I'm the only content creator with the roster sub 5 million. And that was like, I still think I'm probably the only one with a roster under like 7 million ish, right?
Yeah.
And
Zorro just broke 10 this week. So congratulations, Sir Zorro.
Yeah, like brain mind blown what he's doing in the game. It's incredible. Shout out to Sir Zorro. But like, yeah, so I'm just a hair over 5 million, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a whale. I'm not a big spender by any means, but I am spending on the game. But let's go over what did we get this month, right? What did we get as a total free? What has free just fallen out of the sky this month?
I was going to say that was the big thing was that. So the 1A 1B argument is zombie month last month with that prize wall. You know, everybody seemingly had a chance to at least get Zombie Gunther, if not maybe a Becky or a Liv, roster changing characters, all that good stuff, some plates, blah blah blah. But that mistake, and there's confirmation from various sources that it was not intended. You know, there's an in-game email that went out, an in-game message that said, hey, this wasn't what we meant to do. Like this week, the fact that you and I both were able to do the Cora and Liv portion of that tour, that was 100% not intended, right? So that's 20,000 MLC points that were just there for a lot of people. You know, so the level of characters, and I know we talked about this in its own video early on, but Trick Liv is a roster changer. Cora is phenomenal. Bradshaw is a roster changer. Neidhart and Rick Steiner are okay, both great trainers. Neither are going to shake up the world.
Didn't even remember. First of all, we got so many free superstars in the kickoff event that I didn't even remember that we got Neidhart and who was the other one you just said? Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner.
I got Scott Steiner, but I recruited him.
And not now. To be fair, not everyone got all of these superstars. Like we understand
but a lot of people got those ones.
But I'm typing in my chat. I've already got Bradshaw, Oblivion Liv, Cora Jade, Theory, Neidhart, Rick Steiner. That's 6 that probably everyone listening to this got
at least 3 of them.
Yeah. I would say a half of those, right? Plus, Showboat Kevin Owens. That's another one. He's the free MLC superstar, right? So now we're up to 7.
Plus Rhea, if you max, which the contrast would be, you know, you and I'm in another factions chat still that I still love and have been a part of and just support them as best I can. And several of them have posted how far they out on pace. And they're in the 250 to 300 range.
They're still on pace.
Still be kind of like, can I max this?
But
basically on pace. Versus, you know, like the big 3 Mafia family. You know, we're seeing, especially with Toxic Mafia, we were number 1 in one event. Woo! But anyway, you know, top faction in that regard now. I've seen a good like chunk of our team have started to already max this week or are pretty close to maxing. So again, it doesn't mean, so if you're not on pace to max, you know, the question is, how's your faction doing, right? Because the faction events have been a big part of this. And, you know, if you're not getting close to maxing each faction event, then that's a conversation we've had before. Is, are you in a family first faction or a rewards based faction? We just happen to be in one that is family first, that hits most of the rewards. So that's a nice combination. But where are you at with your faction? But for a good portion of the community, Rhea is going to be available, and she's really good. The ironic thing is, of the two of us, you did Kevin Owens and I did Rhea for our previews. And because we do so many previews now, I literally can't remember how I ran Rhea. We've got a 3-minute move set. I'm literally
Right.
gonna have to go back and watch my own 3-minute move set to figure out how she was. But Merrick's has specifically said she is probably the fastest lady feuder he's gonna have on his roster, and he has every female pretty much.
And
So
I did an
that's
in-depth
7.
I did an in-depth roster analysis on Merrick's stream, and he concluded with the input of the community that Showboat Kevin Owens would be my fastest feuder as a Showboat, and the one that I should push to 6-star silver. So that's the free superstar, right? And we're given all of the Evo tokens. So like, I'm not here to sell you on anything. All right. I'm not here to try to convince you of anything. I'm not here as a Scopely, I call it a bootlicker. Like, I'm not here to just like, blow smoke. I legitimately believe that I have gotten more. I personally have gotten more out of this month. Hang on. You know what we haven't even touched? The 4 free 5-star superstars that have been reworked that we've also gotten.
Or the fact that Rock and Roman was so stinking common from the bag drops,
from the bags,
that a lot of people got them, and I didn't.
You're from the bag.
I don't have Rock and Roman.
We're going to talk about Roman in a minute when we talk about some of the complexities and difficulties and frustration of this month, because it feels like the high mountain is higher to climb, but it feels like the low valley it's a lower inaccessible valley, and for all.
Gotcha.
But look, Alexa Bliss, who is way outdated, and a character that time forgot, right? She got
nice.
A really decent rework. If
you can get her 6-star. That was the one.
Yes. The double acro was a dirty move. That was a dirty move, dude. Chain Gang Cena, he's hitting without a strap, turn 1, 6 to 8 million for an outdated, again, land that time forgot. C tier. Natalia, who has a sub move from heaven. She's just crushing the life out of other females. And Andre, who nostalgia wise was the S tier superstar when I started playing this game. He's the person you did not want to see in the feud lane across from you, because he was going to choke you down,
sub you to death.
Yep. And it would be like a 7-turn sub, which was unheard of at that time. And then his gear became available and he got even better. Those aren't great, but they were free. So if we're counting, the community has had access to, and there's going to be 7 total, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 superstars that have fallen out of the sky. And if you're a free-to-play player, this doesn't happen. This is not the nature of this gotcha game. It is pay to play most months, right? To get something good out of it. But to get 12 new superstars, and I'm saying new, the reworks are included. I'm including them as new because it's a new move set. It's a redesign. It's suddenly it's usable where it was not. And you're going to get 3 more. So that would be 15, not including any of the weekend stuff or any of the midweek stuff that feels astronomically out of reach for me. Now, I'm not trying, like I said, I'm not trying to sell you on anything, and I'm not trying to praise, the game as a blind loyalist, because this month has also been very, very frustrating. The Rock for
Do
President
tell.
event for
Oh
the
yeah,
second
that's
year in
terrible.
a row has made me want to pull my hair out because of how out of reach everything was. And
Yeah,
then this Valentine's Day couples gear that feels
yeah.
like I can play in the free Loomis match only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Nothing else can I even do.
right.
And so here, because we have this weird amnesia with the game, the 15 free superstars, the being way ahead of the pace and on the verge of getting the chase, none of that seems to be part of the conversation happening on Facebook and the discords that I pop into. It's like, this
Right,
sucks. This is,
right.
they've moved the goalpost on us yet again. I'll let you.
Yeah.
I've been talking for a little while. We'll go to
No,
you.
you're good. You're right. Like the fact that we have gotten, let's just say 15, and that's a safe estimate for most. Like I pulled Shinsuke on the stream, so I got him. You got Roman through bags, Chard recruit something, or whatever. So,
Yeah, I
there
did.
was.
I did too many. I mean, I shot like too many pulls. Like I went pull crazy with Roman.
Oh,
Like if
good to
you're like,
know.
yeah, like if you're following my journey, and I didn't post these pulls because I don't want to be known as like the pulls guy, like I don't want people rolling their eyes like this guy has a problem, he but like he was free to
So
play.
you're
Now
mitigating
he got a
stuff.
taste of the candy and he's got a sweet tooth, but yeah,
Yeah,
I went in
you went a
big.
little ham.
I went,
Gotcha. Good to know.
and I spent on the step up to at least level 12, and then
Oh,
a few, let's just say considerably more pulls after that. So
wow.
yeah,
Well, then I
where
don't feel bad, I guess, that I didn't get Rock and Roman, but I did see a lot of
no,
people
I
who
went I
pulled in
went
from
all out.
bags.
I went all out, Lee.
So,
Like and you didn't know that, but I went all I went embarrassingly all out. So
wow. Okay.
yeah,
Well, hey,
yeah,
public support group, your
yeah.
secret public journal, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's
Um, what was the question originally before we...
it was what is the nature of addiction? I think is the
Oh,
question.
that's right. That's what it was.
No,
What is the
we were
nature of
talking about
addiction?
how
An expose.
out of reach the
Oh, right.
midweek events have
The
felt
midweek
with The
events
Rock and
have
with
felt.
the Valentine's couples, Extreme
Right.
Rules, CSS
That's right.
required,
I'm in. I got you.
paywall,
Yeah.
prize wall equals
Right.
paywall for both events.
So that's okay. So real quick then, we've got amnesia. We did forget that, let's just say 15, let's say 10 on the low side.
Yeah, not
You got
everyone's going to have all
10
those, right?
phenomenal characters, and we still
Plus,
have a phenomenal one coming.
plus the plates. We
Yes,
have plus the
plus the
plates.
plates. Yeah, you're gonna get, if you can at least beat the 6-star once, you're gonna have 7 plates, 7 new plates, right? So that's
Yeah,
even if they're overlap.
and
And
most people are
so
beating the 6-star with at
5-star
stars
versions. Yeah.
bronze or 5-star silver. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't beat 2, so I will not get the 6 silver. But you even have the ability, if you beat all of these, which requires taking each one to 6-star, I get that, to get a 6-star silver. So there's a lot available. However, you're right. There are detrimental factors that we just forget that the good stuff happens. And I will say, I watch our metrics on YouTube and stuff a little bit more. This last week's episode where we just talked about prize walls, far and away the most viewed podcast episode we have ever had.
And we
And
titled it
you
"Those
you named
Pesky Prize Walls." Like
those pesky
on,
prize walls.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
And
we were
I named
not
it.
happy with them,
Right.
right?
Yeah, no, that's true. So
Mm-hmm.
I subtitled it, Are They Fair? Are They Fun? On the YouTube version of the video. And we got multiple comments that just said, no, no. That was it. Right.
Right.
So the prize walls the theory of them, not to go in on what we did last week, but the theory of them is great if there was a solid middle tier. There's like this low,
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
can get 2 million coins, woo, who cares?
Right.
And maybe they throw one bone. This last one was Asuka, Trickster Asuka's gear. And again, I'm not being
Or the bronze shards, which for me, the bronze shards were exponentially more important and better.
right.
And I've noticed
Yeah,
bronze
and that's
shards
good.
in these milestones of the Dexter level that I'm playing on this
Yeah.
midweek. So I'm not getting the A tier stuff, but I'm getting
But Braun is one of the best powerhouses in the
right.
game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I didn't max that month. So for me,
Right.
that's huge. Even on
Yeah.
a free to play level, I'm getting
Right.
really, really good stuff.
Right. So don't let our amnesia, like in an average month, even as I guess right now the lower spender of the two of us, based on your admissions of guilt here.
Who's the whale
You know,
now, Lee?
right. Normally I was doing, X number of pulls every month and those type of things. And so I was getting, I was getting some of the characters that you previously didn't have access to and stuff. But even in an average month, I would get the free, the chase, maybe one other character. And
Right.
usually when I did pulls, it was an older, like not a outdated as in they just suck, but just an
Right.
older character that, like, if I had gotten them a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'd have been like, oh my gosh. But now I'm like, well, they're fine. They'll sit on the bottom. Like, again, I pulled American Nightmare Cody, the striker version.
How
I
dare
have
you?
not leveled him in three and a
How
half
dare you?
months of
How
having
dare
him.
you?
I've not touched him once, right?
I, on
Because
behalf
he
of the
would have
Rhodes
been.
family, you, sir, are offensive.
Thank you. So yeah, but the prize walls, the rock event, the excessive amount of showdowns. In fact, I think our faction chat little banner is still what we need is more showdowns, right? Because they've just done that to death. And then ironically, now today there'll be a showdown starting, but it didn't go across multiple days. It's going to be a Thursday only showdown. So that's
I
it's
wonder if there
interesting,
was
but
a
they are
mistake.
doing
It
good
feels like there
things.
was a mistake with that start time because I think
No, it says
it
Thursday
was
only on the superstars.
really
Like
because
every single one of the superstars in the bonus points says Thursday only,
it
or
felt like
starts
it would
Thursday.
have been on Valentine's Day, right? For maybe the champions community that necessarily didn't have a Valentine, give them something to do.
Yeah.
Their
Maybe that was
Valentine.
the idea though, is for
Yeah.
those who do, we're not throwing this like so that you have to choose between going on a date and playing champions. Because there was a
Right.
a brevity of content yesterday. I was very surprised by it. But
See that. Well, maybe that's champions investing in you in your love life,
there you
guys.
go.
Maybe Purpo and company wanted you to be out there getting your love on, you know.
Champions chat and chill. All right, let's go.
You want to
You're
come over and
listening to
break
the
some
smooth
gyms?
sounds of Rusty Grace.
You want to come break some gyms with me, baby?
Wow. Stop
I've
it.
got I've got just enough props to beat this last node.
In honor of our temporarily departed friend, pause. Pause.
Oh, departed as like so. Davey D is taking a break from the game. He didn't die.
Temporary, as far as we
I was like, what did
oh
Lee
yeah,
just
no,
say? Our
temporarily
dearly
departed as in he came
departed
back.
friend. Yeah,
No,
I was like, who?
temporarily
Yeah,
hiatus
Davey's on a
did
break. We
friend.
miss his. I miss his content for sure. I miss. If you haven't ever watched a Davey D talks to himself during his own talent up video, it's a thing of beauty. I mean, it is a snapshot into how
Baby
his
D, what
mind
you doing right
works.
now?
And he's in full
Yeah,
dialogue as multiple characters that he's
right.
talking to himself as. Yeah. So Lee, um, high bar for the midweek, and I would even say like the bar is money, right?
Unreachable for many. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you, and not even like, can you spend now? It's have
Right.
you been a high spender for the last 6 months to
Right.
have what is required to participate in these events?
Right.
And then on some level, the weekend superstars have felt a little like if you didn't pull Roman in a bag,
Yeah,
like I
I
was
couldn't get him
surprised
even
more
with a mega
people
pull.
didn't shard recruit him.
Nope.
I was surprised at the amount of people in our faction and around the community that were expressing I'm short of the shards.
Yeah,
And I remember thinking like, oh gosh,
it's not
I'm
what we thought. When we
yeah,
did the weekend contest walkthrough, WCW returns,
right.
we looked at, and it said faction points were for the top whatever factions, and they
Yeah,
were in the premium, and I was like, oh good, they moved them over the premium
right.
section because that shows that they're not guaranteed accessible. But I mean, what was he at? He was a 1600 shard recruit, so I'm 330 shards short of him.
And I
Normally, a
yeah,
faction event would have
right.
given me 200 to 300 shards, so
And they
I
weren't
should be within 30 shards of
and they
him, and I'm
weren't
not.
there.
So
They weren't
there was
there.
no
Yeah.
faction, and yeah, so even
Right.
doing a mega pull, I could not get Roman, and even though he was A tier, and granted, I was thinking about this, by the way. Roman A tier, the Rock and Roman, I don't think he'll translate well into the 6-star gold meta. We don't know what it's going to look like, but I was thinking about those characters that have, been A tier, and we're like, why would they make this guy A tier? Like Triple H, DX, so amazing. Why would they make him A tier? He is clearly like S plus plus tier. And then when we shifted to the 6-star silver meta, it was like,
Right.
oh yeah, he doesn't translate well. I think he's going to be the same. I think Roman is perpetually the only on top for a minute guy, which is ironic,
I will say this about Rock and Roman as someone who shard recruited him.
He's good.
He for me, he was invaluable because he was the subsidy that my roster needed, not having Motu Ray as my purple gym coach. So
Oh,
for me,
true.
um, I don't necessarily care about his feud value.
Right.
I have better powerhouses, I think, with Big Papa Pump and KO Relentless. I think those will translate up the meta. So for me, it's like he is a solid coach that I have long,
Absolutely.
and I don't have a yellow gym coach. And so like
Mm.
if this is a cycle of superstars that they're doing, I hope someone does exactly what he does for yellow gems, and I hope I get said person this
Right.
weekend if that's possible.
Ooh, calling shots here, I
No,
see.
no, I said I hope.
Maybe.
I cannot wail out like I did. I cannot go 80s, pre-inflation spending the way I did last weekend. I cannot continue to spend like it's 1986, okay? Because
Ooh, I like
that is not where we're at.
Thank you, Gordon Gecko.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah, but we're
Yeah,
seeing,
but he is good. Roman, I mean, he might be one of my more I think he was more fun to play with, to be honest. And the one move set, the one that made it into our 3-minute move set video, that one, like I would run it all the time. I would push him into the top of my roster if I had gotten him. So will there be not to segue us to something you don't have on the schedule, but
I'm
will there
good.
be another chance? Because the last week, I would guess, this is speculation, the last week of this birthday event, I bet they do some sort of like recap prize, again, spend, but probably some sort of culmination event that maybe I can get Rock and Roman from, because I will be chasing
Yeah,
him. I like him.
I don't know that they do it every month, but there have been a few months where there's like the best of the month loot towards the end of the
Yeah,
month, and that always
yeah,
feels really good, especially if it's
yeah.
I like for me, the person that I missed that I'm short of like 300 shot, and oh man, if I just could have, is like that Hall of Fame Neidhart. Like I'm still
You're
hoping those
still
shards
chasing him.
come. Because
Yeah,
I'm like 250 shards short, and I still am
right.
hoping I have some. I don't know where they would come from because it's not like, I mean, Hall of Fame seems like no one else wants more Hall of Fame after January, right? Maybe
Yeah,
WrestleMania, maybe when the new Hall
yeah.
of Fame induction ceremony happens,
Goldie wants
maybe
Hall of Fame RVD during WrestleMania month. I do
that
know
would be
that,
great.
but
That would be tremendous.
I think one of
Um,
the things we need to do on our Friday stream, which by the way, if you're listening to this or watching it on a Thursday, Friday night, we now stream on the main channel for WWE Champions. And I want to compare, I got the new Tech Rock, got Neidhart, I've got Fatu, and I've got a
Wow.
couple other little guys in there that wouldn't quite hang with those guys. But I would still say, and I know Merrick's would disagree, and that's okay. But I would still say Tech Neidhart is probably my favorite character they've ever released in the game. And I don't have anybody who hits that hard aside
Wow.
from William Regal,
Wow.
period. So you need one gear though,
That's
one gear, and he otherwise not
right.
so great comparatively.
Right. That's good to know. Well, yeah, let's pull this conversation to a point of intersection. Because here it is, right? We've talked about how high the bar has been for the midweek and potentially even the weekend contest, and yet how
Yeah.
low the bar has been for, even with screw ups and free superstars, but reworks, plates, a great Legends era showboat for free, an
Yeah.
attainable, Legends era acro. So where is the point of intersectionality here with between like the free is better maybe than it's ever been, but the contests seem more exclusive than they've ever been, or more, just you got to work a little. It's just it does feel a little higher, right? So, but
Yep.
how do we resolve this tension, if you will?
I mean, I think the adage that multiple content creators, official and unofficial, have shared across the years is take what you got and enjoy it, right? Take whatever you got this month, because the theory is you at least get 7 5-star reworked superstars who, yeah, you can complain. I've seen people complain that Chain Gang Cena isn't like S plus tier in the game, and I'm like, guys, he's a C tier and he's hitting 6 to 8 million turn one. Like,
And he's 6 years old.
and he's one of
And
the
he uses
earliest
heal
characters in the
gems, one of the
game.
most outdated special
Right.
gem type, which I would love for heal gems to be. But I mean, just leech gems are so much better, right? Like
Right.
leech gems are heal gems, but even better, right?
Sort of. Heal gems have one, if they still work this way, because like you said, they've been out of the meta for a while. Leech gems, the enemy can break and they still get credit for them. Heal gems work like botch gems where they don't get
True.
damage when they
It's
break your heal
zero.
gems. So it's
Does it
kind of
still
like a
do that? Does it
leech. I
zero
don't
out their
know.
damage?
I
Okay.
think so, but anyway, so
Right.
you at least got 7 characters that were completely unusable in some
Right.
cases that are now like right up there. Let's just call them A tier. They are probably now in the A tier range. Plus, if you got any of the mistake characters, if you
Yeah.
got Bradshaw alone, right? If you got Liv alone, like that one character would have made the month for most
Yeah.
people
They're better
any other
than
month.
they're better than most chase superstars. They're better
Yeah.
than Giovanni
Yeah.
Vinci. Bradshaw is like top S plus tier striker, right?
Yeah.
And Liv is a top S plus tier female
Right.
trickster. I couldn't. I was like, what do I?
Trickster.
Yeah, they're
There's
all
just so many
tricksters.
female
Right.
tricksters. So who do you prioritize? Well,
The
right now
best
you
one.
prioritize Liv or Cora, and
Yeah, you
both are
prioritize the best one
and Duck
and
would
stop
say
investing
that
in the
Liv is the
others.
best. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't care
So
who
great
you have
month.
at 5-star gold and you're ready to take them to 6-star. If they're not
Right.
the best one, stop right there. Stop right there because you will regret it. You'll go, oh man, I got this. I kept working up that free Natalia. Like you will regret
Right.
that. You will regret that.
Right.
And those rework superstars are probably not going to be contest superstars anytime soon. But
Maybe.
maybe they are, right? But I think
Maybe this month, especially, maybe there's something
true,
towards the end of the month where
true.
it's like if you use all of them, you get something. Who
Hey,
knows?
can I rally around a cause? If you are a Champions Chat faithful listener, Will you join my cause? And this has never been done. I don't know that anyone from the higher ups will hear this part of the show. And so let's just have a little heart to heart here. This is what I'd love to see. I would love to see heel gyms continue to be a viable, I don't
Wow.
know, currency in this game. So let's do this together. Let's partner together as Champions Chat community. Let's start calling for on the forums the Mask of Mysterio plate to now include all color moves. Just simply remove the word yellow from that plate, and suddenly Chain Gang Cena is off the chain, right? Because he's going to be hitting for even more and even more. Can you
Insane
imagine having a
damage.
Chain Gang Cena that's hitting for like 14 million, right? You're going to be the one laughing all the way. So that's one of the most useless plates unless you have Motu Ray. And
Yeah,
yet,
even
so
there, he's not meta relevant still.
right. So what if we, as friends, dare I say it, family, what if we, as the Champions Chat family, said, we're going to start beating the drum for the Mask of Mysterio plate to be re-envisioned like so many of these great superstars have been this month, right? Wouldn't that be cool? Back to you, Lee.
I so what they don't know is you pitched this in our content creator chat, and I agree with
Let's not.
DJ
No, no, no,
Anon
no.
ZT
Yeah, no,
that
no, no.
don't even mention it. Don't
Well,
even.
it's like some
They'll
stuff.
make 5 more plates before they do that.
No,
Five
no,
that do each color.
not if we just if that's the consistent feedback from the community,
Oh,
even a small pocket of us, right? Who want to see like how irrelevant are heel gyms? Like they really are. They're like irrelevant at this point in the game. So like what we'd be doing ultimately is like let's take something that's irrelevant and make it usable, not even
yeah.
overpowered.
Yeah.
I mean, like not even A tier probably, but like let's take this really dumb thing and make it fun again, right? So that's my proposal.
Well, that's your the one I've been beating since long before I was a content creator was adding in duotone gems, right? Instead of wild card where it's every color, hi balloons. Instead, making like one gem can be blue or green, but not the other colors or things like that. I think
Oh,
that would be
huh.
so. That's my. I'm not gonna ignore your drum beat.
Hey,
But you know
here's a
what? This
strange
all
thought.
brings to is go to the forum, drop some comments.
What do colorblind people see when they play champions? Do they just see
That's why they're different
gray?
shapes.
Are all the is the whole board gray to them? Like different shades of gray? I
Depends on
don't.
your color blindness. I mean, usually
Uh,
it's more like a blue-green shift where they can't distinguish between blue-green or maybe
yeah.
red-purple, something like that. But that's why they're shapes. I mean, the
Right.
different gems are all different shapes. So even if you can't match color, you can match based on shape.
Hmm. Very cool. This is a great place. This is a great place to pause and to
Yes.
shift over to our community spotlight with great JMan Gaming. Lee, you have anything you want to say before we roll the spotlight after your time
Yeah,
with
I've
him?
really appreciated getting to do these community spotlights with different people in the community. This is an unofficial content creator who is just doing amazing work. One of the first questions I ask him is, "How can we find you?" And the last question I ask him is, "How can we find you?" So my ask to you is, go to Great JMan Gaming's page once you hear this community spotlight, or maybe as you're hearing it, if you're listening on a podcast, subscribe to his channel. They're trying to get to a 1K sub, which by the way, we just hit thanks to the giveaway that we're doing tomorrow night on the official channel. Thank you, community, for getting us to 1K subs. Let's get Great J-Man to 1K subs.
That'd be
Check out this
awesome.
interview with them right now. What's up, WWE Champions Universe? This is Lee from Champions Chat, and we have an exciting community spotlight today. Great JMan Gaming is joining us. And let me just say, We've talked about our relationship with Iron Sheik before, great JMan, some of the content creators that we've looked up to and kind of followed their stuff to figure out what in the world are we doing. So first off, it is an honor to have you on the podcast. And secondly, as you introduce yourself, would you tell everybody how they can find your content?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Lee. And yeah, I think Sheik is kind of unofficially my nemesis, but anyway, we
Oh,
might touch on that a little bit.
I
We've
didn't know
had some
that.
fun with that. Yeah, we've definitely been a little bit competitive in this game. But
Ooh,
yeah, as far as finding me, I just have the YouTube channel for now. So check out Great JMan Gaming on YouTube. I'd much appreciate it.
yeah.
I'm getting close to that 1K sub milestone you need
Nice.
to monetize. So
Nice.
that
Us
would be really
too.
cool. But yeah, so I just started banging out some content on my YouTube channel for now.
Sweet. Well, that's awesome. So you've been making content for a little while in this game. The first question I usually ask is, why did you choose this game? And then the follow-up that you can go into is, and what do you like about it? I know some of the things you said, oh, I want to touch on this. So that's kind of your gateway to give us all your thoughts. So why'd you start with Champions? What are you loving about it?
Yeah, I think when I first started playing the game, I was in the middle of a lot of busyness at work, and I was on Facebook, and it was actually a Facebook ad that looked pretty cool. I'm like, oh, a gem breaker game that's dressed up
Oh,
in wrestling. So I downloaded it based on a Facebook ad. But then, as far as content, it was basically boredom during pandemic. Honestly, I just started throwing things up on some of the Facebook groups, and people were like, "You should start a YouTube channel. You're showing
nice.
some pretty good move sets here, and some." I kind of was like known as the hot tag guy. I did a lot of tag in a person with moves loaded in Showdown.
Okay.
I think Goldie did a few of those too. We were both kind of using Dango and things to tag someone in moves loaded, and then you could do a
Right.
lot of things that way. So yeah, basically boredom during pandemic. Started posting them on Facebook. Got a lot of people saying, "Hey, do a YouTube channel. Do a YouTube channel." So I went, "Okay." My early videos were just awful, awful.
All
No
of ours were.
thumbnail, no editing, nothing. But I
Right.
kind of started to learn the video production and editing on YouTube tools and stuff like that. And now I feel like the channel sort of looks okay. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And remind me, did you start yours or do you still do yours where you only use a phone device or do you do editing now?
You know what? It's funny. Like people are like, "How do you do your editing?" All I do is record phone screen app, and then there's some freebie apps. I paid for premium version of a few freebie apps, but yeah, it's strictly all just done on my phone for now.
That's
I
insane. That's awesome. And respect, because that is a hard workflow.
It's easier than you think. Honestly, the editing tools
Oh,
are do most of the work. So I appreciate the
sweet.
plug on that front, but really, it's not. I'm not as brilliant as you might think. So the tools make it very simple and straightforward to edit and pay and post videos.
Okay, sweet. Well, and tell me what are you liking about this game? What's what your spotlight that you wanted to share with the community?
Yeah, I'm very impatient and I definitely have ADD when it comes to most games. For some reason, Champs just keeps me coming back. I think it's because I'm a bit of a nerd and I like playing around with the move sets and I like finding combos that work and I like the variety of characters and gameplay styles. It's very much a deep game once you get into it, as you know. So I think the depth of the game keeps me coming back. On its face, it's a real simple game. You break gems, you win a match, but there's a lot of depth to which character to build, how to set them up, all that.
Right.
So yeah, as far as what I like about the game right now, well, I do see a lot of cool and positive things happening lately. For instance, I really do
Yeah.
love the new character revamps that they're doing. We're getting 7 of them.
Yeah.
We can kind of guess who some of them might be based on the names of some of the plates. If you're savvy, you can
Yep,
kind of
been right
guess.
so far. We'll see
Yeah,
what happens with the rest of these.
exactly. I think somebody did a prediction video on what they might be, but I forget who did that. Oh, it was you guys. Okay, perfect. So there you go. Go
We
check
did,
that
yeah.
one out. I knew I'd seen it. But yeah, I really like those character revamps because they're taking old school things that we've all just had on our roster. We can blow the
Yeah.
dust off of those. And quite frankly, it really helps kind of mid-level and free-to-play players build something useful and competitive. Like I was quite blown away by how good Natty is now.
Yeah.
As is Andre, like he's got that beefy sub now, really, really good.
Kind of
Um,
harkens back to the original. He was, when I started the game, he was like the sub guy you didn't want to run into, and now it's kind of back a little bit.
he was my first 4-star, I believe, Andre, and I had to feud with that guy and basically use him for everything. He was the guy who carried my roster for a long, long time,
Yep.
and then he kind of fell out of the meta, but he's kind
Yeah.
of back now, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
It is cool. He was my first $20 purchase in this game. I remember asking my wife, like, "Oh my gosh, I want to spend money on this game. Like, can I spend $20? Like, do we have that right now?" I mean, yeah, I'm being a little facetious, but still, like my first $20 spend, and then he's back.
Yeah, it can snowball from there. I've been known to
Oh
drop a
yeah.
dime or two on this game, but yeah, watch your
Yeah.
spending. There are definitely some good offers out there, but strictly for the free to play, y'all have it so much better than what we did back in the day. I know I sound like an old fuddy duddy, like I used to walk to school through the snow back in my day, but like honestly, the free to play characters we used to get were just they were not good. If you remember, some of them were just barely even
Yeah.
functional.
Name a
Uh,
couple of them. You put
oh
them in the
Lord.
chat, and it brought back horror memories for me.
Well, I hope I'm not picking on anyone's favorites, but good Lord, like Tech Pete Dunn, the guy's almost unusable. Road Dog,
Yes.
we were so excited. We were getting Road Dog, and he was like one of the worst showboats in the game. And it's just like, okay, but now every single free to play we get every month, they're actually a really good character to build
Really
and
good.
use. So I'm actually really impressed with what they've done there. And
Yeah.
they've kind of figured out a little bit of balancing recently, I feel like. Nothing feels crazily OP turn one completely demolishing anymore. You actually got to think about what you're doing a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of like the way the game's going and that they're addressing gaps in the rosters for people too, for everybody, for free to
Yeah.
play and paid players.
Right. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. And what would you say is I mean, other than just the characters themselves being more usable, we hear this all the time, like, oh, it's so hard to be a free to play player in this game nowadays. What would you say is the key difference between when, I mean, it sounds like you started before me, more like when Rusty started, but when back in our day, right, versus if somebody starts out in the game now, what advantage do they have over when we started?
Well, most factions are pre-established now, so you got factions who can help you grow. A lot of them have lower level factions where you can reach a certain point in your roster and then grow. I'm from a homegrown faction that was outside the top 100. Me and Sheik are leaders over there, among a lot of other great people. And we just stuck with it and stuck with it and got into the top 100, then top 80, then top 50. Now we're top 20. So, like, just kind of plugging away,
Yes.
moving on up, as it were.
Hey,
Uh,
and go ahead and give a shout out and a plug for your faction, because while we all compete as factions, I also like us to collaborate. So give a shout out to your faction.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. You're on the list. OG standalone faction. And yeah, like I say, we moved up in the top 20. Kind of plateaued there a little bit. I mean, I know what it takes to get into a top 10, but most of us
Right.
are like family guys, family people.
Mm, yes.
And so we're busy, kids, work, etc. So I want to enjoy the game and not make a second job out of it. And I think most
Yeah.
people kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, and that seems to be so. We've talked on our podcast before about rewards-based factions versus family-based factions. And when we came to Toxic Mafia, that's the first time we've really seen that blend where it's like everybody's playing at a good level, but it's not like busting your butt or else. And so shout out to You're on the List, because it sounds like you guys and Toxic Mafia, we're kind of kindred spirit in that. So thank you for creating a healthy and fun environment for this game.
Well, you're raising a good point, and I do think community. Sometimes you got to check yourself a little bit. We can all be really excessively negative. Trust
Yeah.
me, I rant my face off, but I confine it to faction chat where it belongs. Like, there's no need to be this negative on the feedback. It really is a pet peeve of mine when I see people saying nasty things to content creators. I'm like, they're there to help promote your game. Like, you
Yeah.
know, if so, just be a little more respectful in your feedback, and you'll probably get stuff done. Like I say, they can't instantly fix everything that's wrong with this game. You got to give them the feedback and then give them a chance to do things.
Right.
Which leads me to the beginning of this month. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, but I am. I really like the way they handled retro case gate, as it were, where
Yeah.
a lot of us hit a lot of premium characters in these cases and we were blown away. I fully expected a rollback. I totally expected a rollback because I've seen
Me
them roll
too.
this game back for less,
Yep.
and they didn't. So I really applaud them for that because they didn't start the month out at war with the player base. So
Right.
props to Scopely for how they handled that.
Yep. I 100% agree. We did address that. I don't know that I have anything that I can share that I'm not allowed to, even in this case. It's just I guess all I can say is that the unique channels that the official content creators are in was fairly silent that day. And then we saw the resolution kind of as you guys did. So sometimes there is a little bit of chatter like, what do you guys think? I think I can say that there was nothing. It was really silent, and then we all got the resolution together, and it was like, oh, thank goodness. Because yeah, imagine starting out the 7th anniversary month with something like that that could have been super negative. But the way that, I mean, I guess to me, the fact that they didn't really give us any heads up, or I don't want to say consult because it's not like we have that role at all. But the way they didn't talk to us makes me think that they were like, hey, let's just eat this one. Let's let the community take a huge win. And it was like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, and like you say, how is it different for free to play? Well, that just leapt all of their rosters way ahead. It
Yep.
gave them a bunch of competitive things to build. Um, I don't know. Anyone who knows me, they kind of know I'm a notorious cheap ass. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon my language. I'm notoriously cheap with my resources.
You're good.
Uh, and I'm always a little puzzled when I see people YOLO things off event. I'm like, why? Why? Be patient, have your plan. Because
Yep.
that move that you just did could have helped your faction. Because like everything, all these talent ups and things, you got to level up 6 stars and all that. There's a time and a place to do everything. Most of this game is resource management.
Mm,
Honestly,
it's
it's
true.
like there's so many resources in this game we have to manage. It's a little out of hand, actually. I mean, maybe they could consolidate or tighten up some of the stuff we have to manage.
Yeah.
But if you're good at that, you won't be in a position where come talent up time or whatever, you're too short on resources to hit these certain milestones, right?
Yep.
So I
Every
always
other
tell
week it
people,
seems.
just go old school, get a notebook and put your plan in there. Uh, that's what I do. And yeah,
Nice.
I don't do it all the time, but early on, I used to have, I look back at what I was working on, and plans have to change, and they do change quickly. Because look at this 5 or 6 new characters we just got beginning of this month.
Right.
That's going to throw your plan out the window right there.
Yeah, or even just like for me, like I have a decent amount of resources. Tokens are eh. In fact, that's why I couldn't take Andre. I will not get the 6-star silver pull because I could not take Andre up. I just didn't have the resources to do so. But yeah, you've got surprise characters of which we still have 5. So there's theoretically need to now completely reprioritize your resources so that you can randomly take up a who knows another. I mean, I'm assuming Tech AJ's in the mix. That's one of the ones I think is
Yeah,
also pretty
phenomenal flow.
obvious. Yeah,
Phenomenal flow
phenomenal
kind of
flow.
tips that off a little bit. Yes, I agree.
Right. So at the very least, you need to be making sure. And by the time this releases, because it'll be about a little less than a week from recording, maybe he's already out and you've already done that. But there's still, yeah, you have to both prioritize and plan, but also be flexible because you never know when another case gate will happen. And all of a sudden, you've got Trickster Liv on your roster, and she's amazing. And then you've got APA Bradshaw, and he's a top strike. Like suddenly things happen and you're like, okay, plans just changed.
Yeah. Well, plus meta changes very quickly, as you've seen. Remember, I
Yeah.
think it was kind of at 6-star bronze, early 6-star silver. It was all gem damage. Everyone's like gem damage, gem damage. But
Hmm.
then they started to pump out all these huge move damage characters.
Yep.
So they'll catch you. You know, you got to build a variety of things, but also you can't stick to one meta for too long because it
Right.
will change. To
Yep.
they kind of want us to be competitive and not just rely on only one thing.
Yep. And I mean, that's smart. It's power creep. It's good for their business, but it also keeps the game entertaining and interesting. Because if I was still using, well, again, Showboat Andre, if I was still using Showboat Andre without a gap in there, and for 6 years he was the best character in the game, it'd be like, well, what's the incentive to do anything else? I'll just keep building Showboat Andre and but now, him falling out of the meta and coming back, it's nostalgia. It's nice.
It is. Power creep was the word I was looking for, and I'm
Okay.
glad you touched on that because they seem to have gotten a handle on slowing that down just a touch so that every character doesn't have to be OP like God
Right.
tier for people who want to build it.
Right.
The game balancing does feel like it's in a better spot than
Yeah.
maybe 6 months or a year ago, I think.
Agreed. I 100% agree. Rusty and I say all the time on the podcast, this is the best time to start playing this game that there has ever been. And Scopely, if you're listening, Facebook ads got somebody to play this game who's now a high level player and a great faction. So maybe we could pump out some more stuff like that. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I have no control. I'm not even in that conversation, but let's get some more. Let's get some more
Yeah,
players.
exactly. Start putting the ads out there, get the new player base growing, and make it a little less roadblocks for them to advance. I do feel like you're right, man. I remember how much of a struggle it was to even get like a 4-star character back in the day. It was so hard to push your roster past that roadblock.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And now you're getting 7 free 5 stars if you started this month. I
Hmm.
mean, 5 stars not world changing anymore, but we started with 1 star and had to try to get him to 4, and 4 was like a mile away. You're starting with 5 stars and maybe take him to 6 if you want to, but 5 stars, especially 5 gold, can still be competitive in a lower roster setting. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Plus, they roll out the tokens and make those easier to get. Once 6-star gold come out, they'll make it
Yeah.
easy for people to push things to 6 bronze.
Yep, 100%. Well, before we go, you said you wanted a little bit of time to talk about WWE TV, and typically this segment is kind of a transition point between the game part of the podcast and the WWE TV part of the podcast. So let's go ahead and hit that now, and tell me what you're thinking about with WWE television.
Well, I've always loved wrestling, but I'm kind of OG old school. I was into it from kind of the Legends era through Attitude era.
Yep,
And I
same.
probably stopped watching around late 90s, early 2000s. I tuned in a few times here and there, like, when Brett came back and things like this. But
Yeah,
for the most part, I was completely off the radar.
yep.
For some reason up here in Canada, the bars and things don't show the pay-per-views like they used to. You used to be able to go to like a bar or a pub and watch like WrestleMania. You'd pay a cover fee and get them. It's kind of moved all towards like actual combat events.
Gotcha.
So I watch now pay-per-views at home. So I'm a casual, I guess, who came back from a 20-year hiatus, and I'm actually just super hooked again based on the pay-per-views I've seen, the athleticism I see, the in-ring product's amazing. I think KO is my favorite. That guy always has banger matches. Love him.
He's
I
fun.
love big dudes who move fast, and he's just right. He's not a super cut guy, but he looks like he could, stomp your face if you mess with him. Just love watching that guy. Um, but yeah, I really think the in-ring product right now is amazing. Me and a buddy who's not watched wrestling in like 3 decades watched the Royal Rumble, and he didn't even know who these people were. He didn't even know their names or anything, but we had a great time watching that. So
Nice.
I really think it's really cool when you see these new characters coming into the game who are presently kind of really hot in real life
Right.
as well. That makes the game more fun to play too.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for being on here. Hopefully, we get a chance to do something again together. But before we sign off, give people everything they need to find your YouTube channel, to like, to share, and subscribe to help Great JMan Gaming get over 1,000 subs now?
Yeah, that would be very cool. Look, I mean, it's a labor of love. I mean, you know, I don't really expect the channel to blow up or anything. And there's content creators who are way ahead of me, but I'm gonna try and roll out more content on my channel. I like to do fun things in the game and entertain me, like different move sets or different characters. But yeah, check out Great JMan Gaming on YouTube, and like you say, like, sub, follow me, that subscribe. That'd be awesome, man. I'd appreciate it. And Lee, thank you so much for having me on. It's fun talking to you, and yeah, I'd love to do this again sometime, or maybe even a three-way conversation with my nemesis Iron Sheik out there. You know, no, not really a challenge, but it would be
Get
cool
rusty.
to.
We could do a fatal 4-way, a tag
There you
team
go.
match. Ooh,
I would love it.
But you're in the same faction as Sheik, so this is a friendly rivalry. This is KO and Jericho, right?
It's definitely a friendly rivalry. Absolutely, okay. Yeah. We're co-leaders in the same faction, so yeah, all good.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Now back to the podcast.
Man, I love hearing a new voice, a fresh voice to the game, and I think that was a great great way to spotlight someone in the community that's actually putting in hours and hours and hours of work creating content. And you and I have learned that's no joke, you know, the stuff that he's doing. I've even, I don't know if you know this, but like I've DM'd him before on Discord and just asked different questions about logo making or video assets and YouTube. I mean, yeah, the guy is just a wealth of knowledge, a wellspring of knowledge. So I'm really thankful for great JMan.
I love the little fake feud that JMan and Iron Sheik are doing. A friend of the channel, Iron Sheik. So
yeah,
maybe down the road we can get both of them together at the same time and do our first ever 4 content creator podcast. Who knows?
Fatal 4-way. That would be awesome.
I know, that's exactly what I was thinking. We get Fatal 4-way. Finally.
That would be great.
Match.
Well, speaking of Fatal 4-way, we are on the road to Elimination Chamber. We'll talk more about that next week as that event gets closer. But this is February, the month of love, right? It's also the briefest month. It's also Black History Month. There's a lot going on in February that we're celebrating and that we're honoring. And we thought this would be a great time to highlight some of our favorite couples in the world of WWE TV, both on screen and behind the scenes. Lee, do you have any thoughts or feelings, particularly maybe the feeling of love and admiration for any WWE couples?
Yes. So my earliest memory of a WWE couple is one that I think most people who are in their late 30s, early 40s probably share this sentiment. Back when Elizabeth was
that was my first
Mega
thought.
Powers, and Hogan was like protecting her, and you know, Randy Savage was jealous, and then you know, he became this uber bad guy, and then he had this redemption moment, and then he had that moment where he got down on one knee and Elizabeth, and you know, couldn't say the H, Elizabeth, will you marry me? Yeah.
Will you marry me?
When she responded, oh yeah, I was like, oh, my heart is melting. I now know what love is. And unfortunately, behind the scenes, they were close to divorce. But in front of the camera, ooh, that was it for me. Like that was my,
you know what I loved?
That was where I figured out what love is in childhood, right?
You know when that storyline got really good? When Jake the Snake gave him a cobra in their wedding gifts
for the wedding gift. Oh yeah, that was when I decided I will never trust Jake the Snake. He is the worst of her.
Yeah, that was so good, man. He had a snake in their wedding gifts. Oh yeah, he got tied in the ropes. That was a great storyline. And you know what they stopped short of on WWE TV is like they didn't tell the second part of that story. There was a part where Ultimate Warrior was going to try to fight and like redeem you know, Randy's legacy, and somehow like Jake locked him in a Cobra room as well. I don't know if you remember that. It was like a glass window and Warrior's like beating on. That match never happened. They cut it. It disappeared from the world of televised wrestling because of behind the scenes stuff. But I always wanted to see. I liked Villain Jake. I really liked that he was just a twisted individual at that point in wrestling, in playing psychological games with people, especially messing with their wife. How can you do that? How do you mess with someone's wife and give her a snake in a box as her wedding gift? Right? What was that story? What was it? There was, maybe you remember this, Sundu. It was like AJ Styles. There was somebody like going to his house and messing with his wife. Do you remember who that was?
Ooh, Wendy. Yeah, it was current other company's world champion.
Some balding guy with a towel around his waist is who it was.
Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal TV show. But yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I do.
What was the point of that? Just harassment of a spouse? Speaking of couples,
trying to make it personal, so to speak, and trying to make it just trying to amp up the stakes. It's like when
was that AJ's real wife?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's
Wendy.
Are they? Do you know? Are they still? Are things good?
As far as we know,
I don't know.
They're together.
No idea.
Nowadays, you can't guess at these things. What about you, Rusty? Who's your favorite couple? Whether it's modern or historic.
Cody and Brandy Rhodes. Easy.
Of course.
Easy. And Liberty, Little Liberty. It's a great show. Like, they're so likable behind the scenes. But I will also say a very close second. I mean, I'm a Cody mark. It's no secret. But as far as a couple and a real life couple, like Miz and Maurice are so likable and so much fun. And I love that Ms. and Mrs. show. I think Maurice could come back to WWE TV and fill a void that there's not we used to talk about this on the early days of the show, but the role of the valet, right? The role of the interfering manager, the distracting female, that was like a staple in pro wrestling.
Right.
In it, no more. It just doesn't happen, right? But
Except
Maurice,
Paul Heyman.
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything. Solo does it, right? So Paul, Paul is there and he talks and he's annoying, but he doesn't affect the outcome of the match the way the beautiful woman at ringside that was the consummate. Now, on some level, Scarlett's doing that, right? On some very small level. Recently she jumped on Bobby Lashley's back and she scratching at his eyes. And I was like, the valet, she's back. But that was a stereotype that was there were probably 10 plus valets in the height of that era. And now they're not a thing at all,
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Any thoughts on Miz and Maurice? Do you ever watch that show?
I have not, no, nor have I seen, they've got on Hulu now, the Bianca and Montez, Love and WWE one, so I just don't have a lot of bandwidth, I guess I should say, for additional content. The only show I watch beyond Raw and then Wrestle Talk for everything else I miss is that This Is Awesome with Greg Miller. I do love catching those. But I catch the PLEs, I catch Raw, and I catch a couple other things beyond that. I just don't have any evenings left over, so I miss some of those. But I know a lot of people who do really like them. So
historic. Now you did ask historic couples. I really liked. Is this okay to even say? I really liked Goldust and Marlena. There was a season where she was a great ringside distraction. She affected the outcome of matches in kind of the pre-Attitude Era, where they hadn't quite yet pushed into the role of the smutty etc. But she was a really great. That was a fun couple, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. This episode of Champions Chat brought to you by Smutty Excedrin for all your
I thought you were going to
pornographic
say by the
ideas.
Rhodes family, because as again,
No,
the Reynolds.
you
I was
said
like, yeah,
Smutty
it's like,
Excedrin.
yeah. Oh
No,
man.
so then second favorite for me in terms of it seems like they're all tied to storyline, right? Because the good stories make it memorable.
Yes.
But that time when Test and Stephanie McMahon were at the altar and Triple H comes in and goes, I got something to show you. Take a look at this. And he takes her to a Vegas wedding chapel and like puppets her, which
Yeah.
nowadays, consent. Ooh, yeah. But
Right.
anyway, puppets her and is like, I so take him, to be our, and then they became like the power couple. And then, of course, real life, all that good stuff. So yeah, that was one of my favorites. And by the way, I saw this on a documentary, but John Cena, young John Cena, was in the audience in the arena when that moment happened. And he said it was one of those things that like shaped him as to like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite form of storytelling ever. So
Wow.
there you
Wow.
go.
I used to watch whatever that Bella show was, and like John Cena and Nikki Bella were a couple, and like they were the most annoying couple. Like they were just like, because like Daniel Bryan and Brie were a couple, right? And so you'd see like they're like this really happy, healthy, like great marriage, and then you've got this dumpster fire that's so petty and fighting over probably fictional scenarios that the producers gave them, but it was like they were just not likable at all.
Yeah.
I would be I would regret it if I didn't give a shout out to honorable mention Candace and Johnny Gargano, like it, but in NXT, they were the center of some of the greatest story ever with the DIY implosion and Ciampa. I mean, it was as dramatic, if not more so, than the Mega Powers, explosion. Just on a much smaller scale. Like you had to really be invested in the black and gold brand to like follow that in that era. But it was, and like I think Candace has a ton of talent. I think she is getting a pretty raw deal out of it now, as being as such an afterthought, and she doesn't even accompany DIY to the ring, and DIY is finally getting a push, but she's not part of it. She needs to be in the story. She needs to be Miss Gargano, Mrs. Wrestling, and be there with them. And I would even say more than a valet, like more than just a pretty face. She needs to be part of the brain trust that is DIY, especially if they're about to go on a title run, which I suspect they're just building this feud with Judgment Day. Is that the Mania match? Maybe like it feels like it might be. I don't know, building towards Mania.
Not the tag team one. No, I think R-Truth and the Awesome Truth. I think they're going to dethrone Judgment Day at Mania. But who knows?
Okay. Well, maybe it's maybe it's the elimination. Maybe it's Elimination Chamber. I bet that's on the card. Elimination Chamber. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of modern day couples, I know that I would say Seth Rollins is probably one of my least favorite characters of the last decade, give or take. But Becky Lynch is by far not only my top female, she's in my top 5 wrestlers, period.
For sure.
And the promos, but shout out to both of them on Monday Raw. The promos that both of them gave, where on the early Cody promo, Seth Rollins looked at Cody and say, "What can I say except you're welcome?" And
oh man,
it was like, ooh. And then Becky comes back later and she's like, "I have to explain to my daughter why I'm bruised. I have to explain to my daughter. I have to explain to my daughter why her dad wants to beat up Maui." Like those two, like parallel.
That was really good.
Like, those two are great.
There was a line, speaking of the Seth Becky stuff, like it came into the forefront in that the Vegas presser too, when Roman, he said something about that's coming from a guy that steals his wife's shoes. Remember that?
Yeah.
He called Rollins out for wearing those fancy patent leather dress shoes with the white bows on them.
Yep.
And I thought that was great because Becky she's known for like kind of flamboyant ring attire. And I love, I don't like Rollins at all. I think he's dead weight to Becky. I think he's slowing her down.
Wow.
He doesn't do anything for her in ring. He doesn't do anything for her story. And like, if you're going to be husband and wife,
bridge those.
They need to do it. They need to do it because I think people are getting bored with Becky, and I know people are bored with Seth. And if they don't explore them as a couple at some point, just no one cares. I think they're on the verge of irrelevancy with how much female talent is coming up with Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill coming. I think they better do something to make us care about the Rollins family, or because I don't see Becky taking the belt off anybody at Mania, right? Again for another title run. Like I just don't see it. I don't know. But I would love if Priest cashed in on Rollins and he was just devastated, and then Becky ran out to console him. Like that would make me care. That would be more interesting than anything that could happen in ring with Becky alone and in ring with Seth alone. That show the reality of their marriage and the intersectionality of where the script meets real life. A husband would comfort his wife and vice versa if it was the most devastating loss under the most egregious circumstances on the grandest stage of them all. Like, make us care about you, please. We want to care about you, Becky. We want to continue to see you as the top girl, right? But you're on the verge of losing it all. You really are. With Bianca's return, Naomi's back. At some point, Alexa Bliss and Carmella are going to come back post baby. There's only so many ladies, right? And the women's tag title, there's only one set for every show, right?
Right.
So there's only so much you can do, and you can't keep hodgepodging these dumb tag teams together like Tegan Knox and Natalia. Like, get over it. Like, speaking of worst couples, any tag team that they've just thrown together in the last 3 years.
Dishonorable mention.
Yes. All tag teams that were two solo superstars that now they just, weave together. So,
well, I think when they do it right, that just hits the magic button so hard that they try and change. Like Awesome Truth, for example. I mean, I could legitimately see them taking the titles off Judgment Day because they've woven that together so well. But usually it's like, okay, let's spin the wheel over here. Let's spin the wheel over here. Okay. The Great Khali and Bronson Reed, you're now a tag team. Go. And you're
it's like, terrible. Okay, speaking of Bronson Reed, here's the thought I had, since we're just spitballing about WTV now. So, or at least we're about to. Why have they been pushing Ivar so hard as a solo superstar when they've got other big men waiting for their chance, like Bronson Reed? Why was Ivar in the Elimination Chamber tournament instead of,
so that LA Knight could have a quick win? But
give LA Knight an actual opponent that's an up and comer. They're pushing Reed, right? Like, he needs a chance. Come on.
He lost against SmackDown, spoilers, but he lost against Bobby Lashley.
You're right.
Or maybe that was Raw. I don't remember which.
No, you're right. Yeah, he lost. He lost to Bobby Lashley. It was a great match, though. It was more entertaining. How many times do we need to see Ivar's backflip? Like, how many times is that? How many times do we need to see a squash match against Tozawa? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather see Otis featured, or I'd rather Alpha Academy get a tag team push than see Ivar, who has an injured partner, continue to be on screen. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make
See,
sense.
that's interesting because I've enjoyed Ivar quite a lot, especially since he and Otis had a cruiserweight match as super heavyweights. Like,
Right.
I've really enjoyed his push. He can do things for his size that it's like when, you know, Rikishi famously, whenever he took a hard clothesline, he did this like 6-point flip and landed on the ground. And every time I saw that, I was like, that dude is way too big to be doing that. But yet he pulled it off with such panache. And it's similar with Ivar, but you're right. You could only go like the first time I saw, you know, the Otis versus Ivar match, that cruiserweight flippy stuff from him, it was like super unique. Now they've gone to that well so many times that it's like, oh yeah, of course he can do a flip. Yeah. So I mean, I can see it from that side of things. It's the uniqueness is going to wear down, and especially if he keeps getting his butt whooped.
And I'm not down on Ivar. I would love to see the Viking Raiders have a tag push, right? I'd love to see them separate the tag belts and give them a set of the tag belts, right? Yeah. Terrific idea. Oh, I can't even believe I thought of that. Where, you know, but it's like you got so many tag teams waiting in the wings, and you've got 2 sets of tag belts on 2 solo superstars that are not a tag team. It's maddening. It's maddening. Wow. Again, that's the worst couple in WWE is 2 solo superstars that they rolled the dice and Yahtzee. Oh, this is a recipe for success. Like that's out of the playbook of the previous administration, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. It's got to stop.
Agreed. So then let me ask you this. So Marvel is probably moving towards Battle World with what we've seen on Deadpool. The whole idea is they stitch together every version of the universe and let them fight it out. So if there were some sort of WWE Battle World where every tag team from every era were in like a Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, who would be your pick to be the final tag team of all tag teams in WWE history?
Oh my gosh, past, present. Oh, that is,
and future.
Yeah.
The Rock's grandson and Roman Reigns' kid. That
is really so gosh, I wasn't expecting to think this deeply about it. Some of the best tag team work of our lifetime has come out of the New Day versus the Usos feud. So, I mean, there's a reason they kept that feud going for so long, and they put him in a cage, and they put him in like Hell in a Cell, and that was probably the top of highlight point of highlight. Of tag team wrestling. So to not pick one of those 2 tag teams would seem ridiculous, right? Because so I would say those 2 would be the finalist of Battle World Tag Team whatever. And I would probably say the Usos. I would probably say or the 3-headed giant of the New Day, and you didn't know which 2 you would face on any given. I mean that would probably be it. That would probably be it.
That's good logic.
And so many of those people have then held other titles or done other runs. And Kofi was world champ, and Big E was world champ, and Jey Uso is this kind of main event guy, and Jey has been pivotal to the storyline of the last few years. And so it would probably be, I know, it'd probably be one of those 2.
Well, before I give my answer, in the comments section below, let us know if there were a Battle World scenario where every tag team in their prime, with the push that they had, with the, their ability, everything, who would be your pick? Let us know in the comments section below. Mine, you said it was ridiculous not to pick one of those two, so I'm being ridiculous right now, but I
No,
think
no,
the
with
ultimate
the premise
boss.
that I set up, with the premise that I set
Right.
up of the height of tag team wrestling, the best
Sure.
era, the best teams, but you can take it
Oh,
any way
yeah.
you want to.
Well, for me, the best era of tag team wrestling was clearly the 1980s. Like I've not gotten over that. And the ultimate final boss, even when they weren't in WWE, they were so important that WWE was creating teams that looked just enough like them that they could say, "See, we've got our version of them." It was the Legion of Doom,
Yeah,
Hawk and Animal. I would
that's
say
yeah.
that would be my. Those are the maybe if they don't win the thing, they're the final boss, right?
That's who,
They're
and I
who
think that's who
the
most people
Usos
would
have to
say. I think
go
that would
through.
be
Yeah,
like the Family
probably.
Feud answer. Out of 100 polled,
Right.
it would be the number
Yeah.
one answer. I think.
LOD. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I could see that for sure. But I mean legitimately like in the 80s, 90s, their aura was just simply like when they showed up, it was like, oh gosh, they're about to wreck people. Like it was
Yeah,
just that's what it was. It was like the Hurt
yeah.
Business actually tried to play off of that a little bit. Obviously, they had kind of the Hurt Business was LOD plus the Nation plus, their own unique thing. But like that feeling of like, oh, when
Hmm.
they show up, it's so okay. So the Brawling Brutes would even be that template. Like when they show up, oh, people are going to get hurt. That's just the way it's going to be. And the big metal spike shoulders, the heavy metal
Oh yeah,
aesthetic, like
yeah.
WWE
They
literally
were a
tried to rip
spectacle.
off there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When they
and they
entered
backed it
the
up.
stadium, they were a spectacle, and it felt like they were like bad dude bikers. Like you didn't want to cross
Yeah,
them.
they came in on
It,
bikes a lot. Yeah.
there was a time in my life where certain people would enter the arena and like I was legitimately afraid like if they came in the stands they would kill
Right.
me. They would just kill me. Like, and like Legion of Doom, like I sat ringside and like one man gang was like, and I remember
Oh,
thinking like, if I yell the wrong thing, he might punch me in the face. Like legitimately, I'm afraid.
right. No, I
Is that,
get you. And theme song, not nothing against the Usos. Their versions have been fine,
yeah.
but even if you go down to theme song and the way it started out with Hawk going, like I still that like I could listen to that for workout music, and that's all I'd need. Give me that and
Yeah.
Real American, and I don't need whatever's on the radio right now.
Right. You know,
I'm the old guy.
I, if we're looking at legacy tag teams, um, exclusively, I would probably put the Heart Foundation there. I would probably say
Oh,
the Heart
yeah.
Foundation as like, yeah, like gosh, they were just they were a better in-ring version of the Legion of Doom. Like they could
Hmm.
like Anvil was as powerful as Animal, and Brett
Hmm.
was a better wrestler than Hawk, right?
Yeah.
But the Hart Foundation did, I mean, they were the tag title holders in that
Right.
era for the longest time. Like they had the
Yeah.
belts, they did the work. The crowd didn't necessarily, they weren't as always over with the crowd, but
Right.
they carried the division. I mean, they put it on their
They did.
back and they worked. So Matt, they would be, I would probably even, yeah, I would put the Hart Foundation over the Usos in the New Day. So probably the Hart Foundation would be my
Interesting.
overall number one Battle World. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so then last question before we call it. If you could pick one classic tag team in their prime to face one current or semi-current tag team in their prime, who are you pitting against each other? Comment below for everybody else, but Rusty, classic tag team in their prime, somewhat modern to modern tag team in their prime. Who do you want to see?
Current tag team would probably be DIY. They're
Okay.
just they do things in the ring that are so entertaining. They work a crowd so well. Against a classic tag team, I think DIY versus maybe Demolition would be really fun. Would be really entertaining. Really entertaining.
What about DIY versus DX? Like R-Truth called out. Oh, you a DX here? Like get Shawn Michaels versus Gargano.
That would be.
I don't know. I'm just curious.
You know, that would be incredible. I think I'd rather see DIY versus the Rockers if we're talking Shawn Michaels tag teams. Like that would be a heck of a show. That would be a heck of a show. Yeah. Jannetty, the Rockers were phenomenal in ring. They really were.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm struggling to think of the current tag team, but I'm going to start my thought and see if I land somewhere. So my classic tag team would be the Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane. Talk about the ones that got thrown together, but it worked.
No, they made sense at least. Their story made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I need a current tag team, and as we've discussed, the tag team scene currently is so underdeveloped. Like,
well, if you had four big men in the ring too, it wouldn't be very entertaining. You'd have to have someone that could kind of carry the match athletically.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe the Mysterios or something like that.
Oh, the Mysterios would be a squash match, but or like sure.
Like think about like the Luchador era. Like if you had like Juventud or something like that, that would be a lot of fun versus a big, monster tag team like that.
Yeah. Maybe well, that'd be classic versus
probably
classic.
DIY. You probably want to see DIY against it.
I mean, when you said DIY, that was like, well, that's the team I want to see. So I've got to go a different direction. I was trying to pivot hard. I don't really think that Chase U versus the Undertaker, or Brothers of Destruction would be that great.
You don't want that.
I don't know.
You don't want that.
So I don't know. Let me know in the comments section. One last time. Third question. Who of the modern tag teams, if we could have in their prime Brothers of Destruction, who would you want to see them face? And I'm not sure. Maybe Alpha Academy. Maybe I could see the rest in peace. Thank you. Like promo battle.
Terrible.
Maybe. I don't know.
Man, they would bury him. They would be, and you just assume Brothers of Destruction, that's going to be a squash match, no matter who they go against. Once they finally catch them, right, and grab them, it's just over. Just going to bear hug them.
Whoa.
Let us know. Just tell it. Whatever it is, let us know. Now you've got your promo set up for you.
If you were watching the video, apparently if you do, I can't repeat it. Anyway, no, I've got it. All right. I thought of it because I did say semi-recent as well. So I want to see in their prime, the Hurt Business versus Brothers of Destruction. That's what it is. The Hurt Business is probably my favorite faction of the last however many years. So the version of it that would be Bobby.
Yeah, I was like, who would the tag team be though? Would it be MVP?
Right.
Or would it be
no. Bobby Lashley
Apollo?
And maybe Shelton Benjamin. I don't know. Yeah, because then you've got the athleticism, but you got power, but you got one power that's more powerful than both. But the two of them would also be, like they could equal Bobby Lashley if they combine their forces. And then you got Shelton, who's like the wild card who can do all sorts of stuff. That's mine. All right, I got there in the end. It just took a lot of thinking and a laser light show, apparently.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to do that.
I know, right? What was that?
That was a special moment, whatever it was.
Code, see your guys.
Yeah. Nice. Well, take us out, Lee.
All right. Well, we hope that your Valentine's shenanigans were enjoyably happy and that you had a great anti-Valentine's Day for the rest.
The Galentines.
The Galentines.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's an honor to be a part of this community. I hope you enjoy watching wrestling, and I hope that you will like, share, and subscribe our Champions Chat content because we're going to keep making it because we enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy it too. See you next time. Bye.